Hello and welcome back to NHB Retro. For a few videos now, I've been working on this gorgeous Franklin Ace 1000 Plus machine. If you haven't seen the previous videos in the series, I encourage you to take the opportunity and check them out. It's a pretty interesting variety of an already kind of interesting machine. And I've been, like I said, I've been working on getting this one back up and running for quite some time. And there's still a few things to do. This machine is not 100% yet, but it's time that it was back all in one piece and running the way that it should be. So let's get that going. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the series. Let's go ahead and just clean up this base plate really quick. There's a lot of rust from the power supply. I'm just gonna guess that this speaker doesn't really work very well anymore. Yeah, but otherwise just straight up cleaning of this. Let's get to that. Okay, so here is the back plate. I went ahead and sanded this surface with a random orbital sander, which, this being aluminum, of course, I would highly recommend that if you're going to do that, that you wear a mask and otherwise mitigate the amount of dust that you're going to breathe in, because aluminum is not good for you. Surprise, surprise. I found some feet that are a relatively close match for the originals. Sadly, the original sticker with the serial number did not make it. However, it's a very close copy of the serial number sticker that goes on the power supply, and so I did print out a reproduction one of those that I'll be sticking on here. And yeah, I think that will just about finish up the base plate, and we can pretty much move on to getting everything put back together. All right, so I've started to look at the keyboard here for the Franklin Ace 1000 Plus. Got my usual excellent Texelec foam pads to replace the ones that have all clearly, completely disappeared here. But there's a lot more corrosion in here than I had anticipated. Obviously, this base plate is very rusty, which, it doesn't look nice, but functionally it doesn't make a difference. However, I'm looking at the actual conductive pads here, and even after getting most of the kind of chunky dirt and grime off there, some of the pads do not look very good. So I'm going to need to, So I'm going to run some conductivity tests and hope against hope that these are still conducting. Otherwise, we may have to come up with some sort of alternate approach here. So I was going to do this keyboard off camera since I've done one of these Franklin keyboards before, and I anticipated it being much, very, very similar to that. But yeah, this is more than I was anticipating. So I'm going to do those tests, and then we'll see where we need to go from there. So things have escalated. I decided that I needed to take the keys off, and then I realized that the actual entire key mechanism can be popped out. And you see that I've done some of these. Now, you'll notice there's basically two tabs, one on this side and one on that side, that are holding the key, come on, focus, holding the whole key mechanism in there. And the thing I didn't realize until just a moment ago, after taking all of these out, is that, let's see if I can capture this, as the key travels, see the inside there, it comes down and it blocks that, it unblocks that tab. So when the key is in the up position, it's very hard to push those tabs in and get it to come out of through the hole in the keyboard base here. But if you can manage to push the key in and then compress the two tabs, they pop out much easier. I'm glad I didn't break any of the ones that I took out so far, because doing it without depressing the key is really difficult. So I'm going to get the rest of these out of here. Hopefully that goes very easily, and then we'll talk about getting rid of this rust. All right, so the keys, I just set them all inside of a tub of some simple green solution, and the keys themselves turned out really nice. The springs still have a little bit of corrosion on them. Might try to add some anti-corrosion something on there. But now all that is left is for each and every key, which I'm starting to realize just how many there are on the Franklin. We need to take one of these new Mylar pads that has a plastic disc side, and that plastic disc needs to go under the 4 little clips around the perimeter of the key. I'm gonna put one in off camera here. Okay, and there we are. They are a little teeny bit fiddly, and you do have to get them under all 4 clips, or else they'll probably fall out on you. But yeah, the only real problem here is that there are so many to do. So I'm going to get all those done, get all the keys put back into the keyboard, the base plate, and we'll see if this even works. And here's the keyboard all back together. It turned out to be a much bigger task. The keyboard was in much worse shape than I had anticipated. The only thing left to do now is there's just one lead for the LED connector that goes up to the LED in the case that needs to get reattached. Pretty interesting keyboard in many ways. And I would like to do a video someday just showing the differences between the various Franklin keyboards. There's quite a variety, even in the few examples that I have. One of the neat things that I found about these keycaps, as you can probably see here, let me get some light on it. Some of the keys are pretty interesting. This one has an extra little arrow on the front of the keycap. I'm not sure why. Other examples of this don't have that. This one does. I've seen even marketing photos that you can clearly see that in there. Yeah, I don't know. Some of the versions of the keys over on the number pad here, they have, I think, what they referred to as VisiCalc keys, which have the little VisiCalc equivalent functions on them. This one doesn't. And this seems to be the same keyboard. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, please. This seems to be the same keyboard that the Ace 100 used as well. Very interesting there. And of course, it is a Keytronics product, as you can see, even on the little plastic blanks for the keys that don't exist. It says Keytronic. Anyway, yeah. So this is all back together. I'm just going to go ahead and fix that lead for the LED off camera, and we should be good to go. So I've got one last task to do before I can put the keyboard back together and call it done, and that involves this cable. Now, if you'll remember, in one of my previous videos I mentioned that I'm forever damaging the keyboard cables for these machines, and wouldn't you know it, just snapped one of those pins right off there as I was trying to push it into some protective foam in order to not snap one of those pins right off there, which is a real bummer because One of the nice things about Franklin's is that there is this key post on their keyboard socket, and it's off center, which means you can't insert it the wrong way around, which is, you know, a common mistake made on Apple IIs when you're putting them back together. Put the keyboard in the wrong way around and cause damage. So yeah, it's a bummer that this snapped off here. Now my thought was, well, I'll just buy some of these dip socket cable connectors, cable ends, whatever you want to call them, and I will just use the same cable. It'll be a tiny bit shorter, but you probably already noticed this. The width of this cable is not nearly the width of that would be required to go into one of these IDC style crimp-on or snap-on connectors, whatever they are. So instead, I will. I'm going to be using some of this regular old IDC cabling, and yeah, I'll just get it cut to the right length, and I'll put two ends on it. And yeah, the thing about that, I really do wish I could preserve that key somehow, but it doesn't seem like you can take these apart. They seem to be molded on. I'm tempted actually to even try soldering that, but it might be doable. It just would make a mess and probably melt some of the plastic. So yeah, we're just going to go with a brand new one. I'm going to get that cable cut and get those ends crimped on and see how that works out. Alrighty, there is the new cable, looking very nice. I've got it attached one end to the keyboard, and as a bit of, I guess, cable strain relief maybe. The originals had these sort of stuck down to the back here with some double-sided, like a foam tape. So I'm going to go ahead and try to use one of these 3M foam squares to get that same effect right about there. Right about like that. See if this will cooperate here. Alrighty. Hopefully this is very, very sticky. All right, that's similar to the original, I believe. All right, now I think we can actually get everything sort of put back together. All right, so it is finally time for real to start putting this computer back together. It's just been, it's been in pieces and sitting around for far, far too long. Now, this brings up a problem, at least in the short term, and that is, this is not the original motherboard from this machine. It is the exact same rev and all that, but it is one that is in much nicer shape. This is the original one, and it is super duper close to working. Like, it almost works, but I need to do some more troubleshooting on it, and that's an area that I'm not super familiar with. I have recently purchased an oscilloscope, or a real oscilloscope, not like the antique ones that I have, and I'm going through it, and I feel like I'm going to get there, but like I said, it's time to get this computer back together. And this motherboard is the exact same rev. I've taken the ROMs out of the original motherboard and put them in here, verified that that does work. And so let's get this machine back together the way it deserves to be. And at some future date, I'll do an in-depth, hopefully, video about this motherboard and getting it working. Because again, I feel like it's super close. I've done a few things to it. I've recapped it all, and I've started going through and just verifying all the connections. I found some pins that weren't actually contacting well, some sockets that needed to be cleaned, but nothing super major yet, but something's going on with it. So anyway, yeah, back to the task at hand. Let's get this computer back into one piece. All right, at long last, we have the Franklin Ace 1000 Plus all put back together, plugged into the VGA monitor here. Let's give it a whirl. All right, and there it goes, booting up. Man, if you've never worked on one of these machines before, they are just epically large in scale. I mean, just like even larger than an Apple II, and then with this disc hood on top of here, my God. Okay, so we've booted up on the Franklin Ace 1000 master diskette. Everything seems to be working well. Everything's working well except me. All right, and yeah, I'm really surprised that this keyboard actually works, and it seems to work 100%. It looked terrible when I started on that thing. The case did not come out 100%. This is a painted surface though, and I think it would be fairly easy to get this color matched and just like do a new coat of paint on there. The other thing is the fan that I put in here, you can probably hear it. It is pretty darn loud. Now, my understanding is that these Franklin, the Ace 1000 Plus, the 1100, and the 1200, which all had this hood, had potential cooling issues. Like there was not enough airflow with this hood on here because the vents that are usually down here are now up here and they're completely obscured by the drives. So I don't know, maybe this bigger fan is a step up. I don't know. And obviously the badge, boy, I would sure like to get that into nicer shape. It has just some pits in it. I might take a stab at just spot painting over some of those pits. I don't know, I don't want to mess it up. If anyone knows someone who has the magical ability to make reproduction aluminum badges, like Mac Effects maybe, that would be really nice to know about. Otherwise, yeah, I'm super happy with how this machine turned out. It's a beautiful machine. I'm making some progress on the actual original motherboard that went in here. Like I said, this one is running the same exact revision number motherboard, but from a different machine. And I do have the original ROMs from this machine on this motherboard as well. And I'm still working on that other motherboard. Would like to get it going. But anyway, I'm really glad to get this machine back together. It's been a long time in the making, and of course, mostly from my dawdling around. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the journey. Let me know if you have any questions, anything I can answer, or comments. Of course, I always enjoy the comments. And otherwise, I will see you on the next one.